hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. Okay, I have a quick-ish, hopefully, yay or nay review for you guys today about The Cheerleaders from Kara Thomas. Now, this is a book that I have been really anticipating pretty much for all of 2018. I believe it was on my most anticipated books for 2018 at the beginning of the year, and I think I may have even put it in my updated video in the middle of the summer. Basically, I've been super hyped for this book. I was really just intrigued by the premise of it when I heard about it, which was essentially that there was a small town. I think this is, side note, I think this is roughly based on true story, so do with that what you will. There's a small town where the cheerleader, one year, the high school cheerleading team at the local high school was systematically killed, died accidentally. No longer with us, basically, where 5 girls ended up dead, basically, from the cheerleading squad, and in the light of that, the high school disbanded the cheerleading squad. There has never been a cheerleading squad since. Fast forward 4 years, and the younger sister of the last girl who died is struggling, basically. We open the book, and it's very clear that she is having some real, just a hard time. I think she's kind of acting out, basically, because she is now even older, I believe, than her sister was when she died. And I think we're meant to, as the book goes on, I think it's clear that I don't think she's fully aware that her sister's death has impacted her as much as it has. But anyway, she's struggling at the beginning of the book. She's nosing around doing something in her stepfather's office, and her stepfather is a local policeman, and she finds a letter that makes her wonder if her sister's death was actually a suicide. Because just for context, these 5 girls who died, they died in 3 separate incidences, one of which was clearly murder, one of which could have been a murder, could have been an accident, and then her sister's death at least appears to have been a suicide. So she sees this letter in her stepfather's desk, and essentially it opens up all these questions she's had about exactly what happened in that whole run of deaths, whether or not her sister actually did commit suicide, and basically trying to figure out some things that are happening in the present day as well. And really kind of facing up to some of the consequences of her own acting out. So I do want to give a content warning for this. Suicide I've already mentioned. I think the author does is very tactful in how she addresses that. I want to be clear that there's never any actual description of the how of that suicide, just that it happened. We never get any specific details, so if that would be triggering to you, rest assured that you don't get any specific details about what that crime scene was like. So just so you know. And then I do think there needs to be a content warning, just that there's very frank discussion about abortion in this book, and in a way that I would really appreciate it, and is a topic I frankly think we need to see more of in YA, because it's a real thing that teenagers deal with. I mean, it's a thing we need to see in fiction, I think, in general, because it is, however you feel about it, it is a part of life. And anyway, I think it's dealt with very respectfully. It's not dealt with in any kind of super graphic way, but it is clear that that's what's happening, and I think you get some real realism about kind of the aftermath of what that's like. So I feel like those 2 content warnings need to be given for this particular book. And aside from that, now that I've given you sort of the rundown of the content of this book, I just want to tell you that I love this. I gave this a 4.5 star, which means it's a favorite of the year for me. The realism that is in this book is something I really appreciated. I think that this is a rare book that is written about teenagers for teenagers that actually treats them like people with complicated emotional lives and complicated reactions to things. I think often YA can kind of have a kind of one-dimensionality to different emotional states in terms of depression or anger or whatever, and that makes sense given the audience for it, but it was just refreshing to see characters who I think were really fleshed out, who had some real complications in terms of their responses to various situations that they encountered, and I just really, I felt like we were in the mind of an actual teenager in a way that I felt like it was very well observed. It was a very well observed novel. I think that she captures a really dark mood well in this, and you're definitely, because you're following the protagonist, most of this is from her point of view, though we do get a few cutaways to the point of view of her sister in the past. But when we're in the headspace of our heroine, she is acting out. She's going through a really hard time. And like I said, I think as the book progresses, I think she's kind of realizing how much what happened to her sister has affected her. But I think we're essentially in the point of view of somebody who is on some level depressed. And I think that that's captured in a way that is kind of brutal in terms of just like the mood of the book, but it's not so brutal that it puts you off. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think she does a good job of sort of capturing that headspace, but not in a way that is, I think, too much or too heavy. But yeah, basically just overall, I really respected sort of the craftsmanship of this book. It's a very well observed, a very well rendered novel, and I think sometimes we don't get that in YA. Like, just to be honest, I think sometimes we get things that are really kind of watered down, and that's definitely not the case in this book. So much so that I almost wonder if it is YA, because I do think a piece of YA is that it is and not in a bad way. I just do think it tends to be somewhat watered down because of its intended audience. But I think on reflection, I'm probably okay with this being considered YA, because it is really about like a coming of age story, finding your place in the world, all of those kind of like classic hallmarks of YA. But just know that I think that this is a pretty intense read. I think that this is something that could kind of be a transition book between YA and adult. Yeah, just all in all, really love this book. I actually picked up, she wrote a book called Little Monsters. It's here on the cover. And I picked that up when it was on sale for $1.99. It may still be on Kindle. I don't know. You can look that up. And I'm looking forward to reading more from her, because I really enjoyed this book. And yeah. All that to say, like I mentioned earlier, I did give this a 4.5 star out of 5 and would highly recommend. So this is a big yay for me. So I think that will do it for my yay or nay review for The Cheerleaders by Kara Thomas. Let me know if you guys have read this, or if you end up reading it, what you think. I tend to recommend books like this when I feel like even if you don't end up liking it, I think you'll have a response to it. And to me, any book that can elicit a response is one that is worth reading, even if it ends up being a negative one. So anyway, all that to say, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you guys are having a really lovely day, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!